Pedro from A&P-Reacts. I'm here today with DL of Bad Wolves to talk about Dear Monsters, out October 29th on Better Noise Music. How's it going?
Good, man. Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, and it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I've had also the pleasure of listening to the album, and you absolutely slayed on this record.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You know, you listen to a song and you think like, there's no way this guy's going to do any better on the next track, and then you surpass what you did on the previous song. You really set the bar for this record, and people may come for the music, but they're going to stay for the vocals.
Holy shit. Thank you so much, man. That means the world to me and the band. And yeah, I think, you know, moving forward, it's just zero expectations, but I love to hear that from people finally starting to hear the full album, and it means a lot to me. Thank you.
How was that first experience coming in? Did you feel a little bit awkward coming into the band, or did the guys make you feel extremely welcome? They bought you like a gift basket or something to welcome into the fold?
No, there was never really any awkwardness, just because, you know, we all kind of came from the same metal community, same metal background, and I had known a couple of the guys previously, especially Doc and everything, and now it just, especially once we finally got in the same room together and began rehearsing and had our first dinner together, and all those kind of those things that reacquainted us. Yeah, it felt like a family reunion. It felt very natural, organic, and I think that was kind of a jumping off point to you know, even further down the road, me coming into the band and everything. It just felt good from the start. So
did you come in with any expectations, not only for yourself in terms of what you wanted to bring to the table, but also from what you wanted the guys to offer you as far as giving you the right platform for you to be able to do the best that you could?
Yes and no. You know, like I had mentioned, that we all kind of try and keep our expectations pretty low. You know, that way you're never disappointed, right? Zero expectations, never disappointed. So you know, with that being said, it was the kind of case where as much as the band was trying me out, I was also trying the band out. And like I had mentioned, it just clicked, man. And there was just instant chemistry, especially when we started writing a little bit and kind of tackling the project together. It was pretty apparent that there was some chemistry there. So
what was the most fun part about putting this record together for you?
Probably the fact that once we were all in the studio together and I had come out to LA to track my vocals, the most fun part was probably just the fact that being in the studio was just almost too easy, and it was just really enjoyable. And that's not always the case going into the studio. You know, a lot of times I've done quite a few records, whether it's for myself or other bands, and a lot of times, you know, you could it's a very stressful situation. There's a lot of money. There's time crunch, deadlines, you know, and people do end up kind of which I've experienced in my past projects and stuff too. You know, you can butt heads in the studio, and things can get kind of tight in the studio. But this time around, it was just like everything was just, it was almost like weird how fun and just laid back and how easy the process was, especially, you know, once every guy's in the room together and we're just kind of spitballing and throwing ideas at each other. It's just every guy in the band is almost a producer in their own right. So yeah, that was the coolest part for me, is just leaving the studio every day like more than satisfied at what we had accomplished at that day. And you know, even just by the end of the project, we actually had like extra days in the studio. There was never any like, oh man, like we're not done yet, we gotta like hurry up. It was perfect. So yeah, that was awesome.
Considering the chemistry that you had almost immediately with the guys, did that have a positive impact on the creative approach to the record? And how was that creative approach, and how much did it change from previous projects that you've been involved in?
Yeah, it did have a big impact on things. You know, if there was a part that one guy really believed in, and you know, the other 8 voices in the room or whatever, because, you know, also with the band, we were working closely with Josh Gilbert and Joseph McQueen. They work at Sparrow Sound, the studio that we tracked Dear Monsters at, and yeah, if one guy felt a certain way and the other 8 or so guys in the room were felt differently, then it was just, no contest, majority kind of rules. It was really easy to kind of make decisions that way and just have it be like a diplomatic process like that. And that way, it's just everybody kind of feels like their voice is heard, and that you're putting your best foot forward, and you're doing what really, when it's a majority rules kind of thing like that, you're just kind of, it always makes sense whatever decision is made. So yeah, that's pretty much how that went.
With a title like Dear Monsters, is this a little bit of a letter, an open letter to some of those monsters out there?
That's exactly what it is. Yes. Not only, externally, but I think more so internally, because, at the end of the day, everybody has their own monsters. And I always kind of lay it out. It's like, some people's personal monster, externally might be their boss at work, or that's like what they dread waking up to, or internally depression, or suicidal thoughts, all of these things that people struggle with daily. It's just Dear Monsters is like you had mentioned, it's just the open penning of a letter to address those inner feelings, and kind of just take them head on. And yeah, that's definitely what sums up Dear Monsters.
When you look at this record and you look at the design, the track listing, the overall structure of this album, do you feel like this is a balanced record, or do you see a little bit more of heaviness tipping the scales towards the second half of the record?
I think that we made it a point to really kind of have peaks and valleys throughout the record, and just really kind of take you on a journey. For example, I believe one of the softest songs on the album is Springfield Summer. And right before that song is one of the heaviest songs on the album. Yeah. So
yeah, I think the heaviest, actually.
Yeah, On the Case. And so I believe that, it's just kind of one of those things where we definitely took into account the sequencing of the album, and we really just kind of wanted to tell a story that way with how the songs kind of went, and really, all 12 tracks kind of offer a little something different. And I know it's like it's the worst cliche thing, but this album really does have something for everyone. So we're really proud of that.
I'm really impressed that you brought up Springfield Summer, because I thought you were perhaps going to keep that one under wraps. That was a song that perked up my ears, because I'm listening to the record, and when they got to that track, I was like, what is this? Because it has a little bit of a country vibe.
In a good way?
In a good way. Yeah.
Okay, good.
In a good way, because of your vocals. I think your vocals nailed that song. Really, I really felt that your vocals were like the icing on the cake as far as that track is concerned, because it walks this fine line between country, pop country, and then rock once it gets into that chorus. How does a song like this come to life? Because it feels like so out of place in the overall context of the record.
That song really just kind of came to fruition. It was really, I used the baseball analogy, it was stupid, but it really was like a ninth inning kind of song, where, I'm a Massachusetts guy. The band is an LA based band. I had already gone home after the tracking of the album, thinking that the album was done, and it really wasn't. So, it's the kind of case where we're always in a creative mindset, me and the guys. And, even after finishing the record, or what we had thought was the record being finished, we were kind of kicking around mixes, listening to the songs, just kind of really like letting the material simmer. And, at that point, after speaking to some of the people at the label, and just kind of the guys and I, talking amongst ourselves about like the track listing and what we kind of have in front of us, we felt like we were missing a song like Springfield Summer, like kind of something in a major key. And we really, it really is a song that that we've all kind of wanted to do, and we just haven't had a chance, whether it's in Bad Wolves or whether it's in my prior bands, or just, in general. It's always something that we all wanted to do, a song like that, and we just really haven't had a chance. And I think, with with me being the new singer and bringing kind of some new stuff stylistically, vocally, that was just like a perfect opportunity for us to kind of stretch our legs and try something new, try something that we've always wanted to do. And yeah, that song was another one that just kind of, although it was kind of last minute like that, and we just kind of put it together, you know, it was one of those songs that really kind of came together organically. So John had that first intro riff, the acoustic riff that it starts off with. He had that kicking around for a couple of years, I believe. I mean, I'm not exactly sure, but it was a while that he's kind of had that laying around wanting to use it. And he sent that to me. And, you know, I have a studio, so I'm able to kind of just throw things down quickly over whatever. And he sent that to me, and I didn't even put lyrics on it yet. I just kind of did like a scat vocal melody over it. And it was like a little 30-second piece. And I sent it back to him, and we weren't sure really what to do until we heard that scat melody over the acoustic part. And me and him just kind of like listened to that 30-second clip for like a week straight, and we're like, all right, screw it, we have to write this song. So you know, from there I wrote the choruses, and we started piecing it together. And yeah, it took shape pretty quickly, and it ended up being one of our favorite songs on the record, honestly. So
like I said earlier, I think without your vocals, that song would never be on a Bad Wolves album. I think you were the final piece in order for that song to really work as it does so well on this record. And I hope you guys added to the set list, perhaps go full acoustic on in the middle of a set list, because it's such a beautiful track. It really deserves
cool.
a huge amount of attention, how beautiful this song is.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah, I think, you know, at some point that song is intended to be a single of some sort. So yeah, we do have plans for that song for sure.
You mentioned the ups and downs, that you like to create a record that has that sort of flow. And I also felt like the record is allowed to have that flow because of the diversity that it has. Is that diversity a direct result of all of your different personalities and everything that you bring to the table?
Yeah, I believe so. But I think more than anything, it's just the reflection of us wanting to write a record that we want to write, and not really having any kind of influence other than wanting to write an album that we want to be fans of and we want to listen to. Because really, at the end of the day, like if you can't love your own album, if you can't believe in your own album like that, how can anybody else? So really, first and foremost, we just wanted to make sure that we were putting together material that we could be fans of. And I mean, that holds true. You know, I've done so many albums by this stage in the game where you're way past mixing, mastering, and you've heard it 10,000 times over. You know, 9 times out of 10, I'm so sick of the material at this point. Like, you don't want to hear it ever again. But still, you know, although I'm trying to retain muscle memory and stuff for concerts and doing the live aspect, but I do still listen to the record almost daily as a fan of it, and I'm still just as proud as before we even got into like the mix stage or anything. It's an incredible record, and I think we're all really proud of it.
You come into the band as the lead singer, but you cannot deny the experience that you also have as a guitar player. So when you're into this record, at any point in time, did you tell Doc Coyle, hey, you know, like that solo sounds great, but if you did it this way, it would have been a lot better, or that never happened?
Yeah, not so much on this record. You know, I think that's another really important point moving forward. It's like every guy in the band could be a producer, but also I think every guy in the band trusts the next guy just as much. So, you know, there have been cases in other projects and stuff where I would, there just wasn't a necessity for that. Anything that Doc brought to the table is because I think, you know, quite a few of the songs, they were done instrumentally, even vocally, and then he kind of tackled some of the solos and stuff later on in his home studio, and then they were like put into the mix afterwards. But yeah, I mean, anytime he did something on his own and then brought it back to the table and we heard a mix, we were all just like, wow, that's like perfect. So yeah, like I said, you know, it's one of those situations where it's just almost too easy. It's kind of annoying. It's kind of annoying how good these guys are. There's a lot of talent in this group.
Hey, don't sell yourself short. I think you elevated the bar as far as talent is concerned when it comes to Bad Wolves. So you can't sell yourself short there.
Thank you.
And speaking of your talent and your vocals, I felt listening to this record that you bring a lot of emotion to the way you attack the lyrics and how you then bring those lyrics into the overall big picture of how the music is put together. Are you an emotional singer of sorts? Did you pull a little bit of that when it comes to your delivery?
I think really my delivery was just it's kind of been shaped since I was a kid. Before I was into rock and metal, I really loved R&B. I really loved pop. I loved Michael Jackson, Boyz II Men. Like I loved all that stuff growing up, and I really just always paid attention to those little nuances, how those pop singers did their vibratos, or how they delivered a verse as opposed to a chorus, just the dynamics and everything. So I think that was just something, even singing along to some of my favorite records growing up. Once I did finally get into rock and metal, I loved Seven Dust. I loved those kind of singers. And LaJohn is a very dynamic singer as well on the Seven Dust records, where, verses are kind of more breathy and a little more laid back. And then he like kind of lets it fly on those choruses. So, even singing along to that kind of stuff growing up and everything, it really kind of, it kind of taught me the ways, for sure. Seven Dust was like my rock and metal Yoda growing up, for sure. I paid a lot of attention to how LaJohn kind of delivers and stuff. And, even though it may be, whether it was inadvertent or not, it definitely stuck with me.
Yeah, I felt there was also a little bit of darkness on some of the tracks, the way you approached them vocally. You brought a little bit of this underlying darkness, not over the top, like it doesn't have a negative impact on the song, but it just makes the song feel slightly more somber. And I thought that was so well done, because it wasn't in your face, it was just like really hidden within the overall experience of listening to the track. You feel that way about some of the songs on this record and how your vocals came across?
Yeah, I think one of the most kind of somber / most difficult song for me to tackle at the time. I mean, that was probably the most nerve-wracking day for me. Not in a bad way or anything. It was just the closing track in the middle. It's just one of those songs. It's a song that's about the Doc had a really rough year in the past year. He lost both of his parents, and that song is kind of a tribute to them. And yeah, just kind of I was really nervous to put that song together and sing it the day that I was tracking vocals on that, because I really wanted to make sure that I did that song justice, especially for him and the tough time that he was going through. And, knowing that he's going to have to listen to that song the rest of his life. And it's going to always remind him of, not so great times, but at the same time, it's gonna, it's a remembered song, so it's got to just hit the right way. And that I was nervous as hell singing that song, and he told me that that the night that I tracked that song, and we had left the studio, and we just had a rough bounce of that song, and he texted the group chat and said that him and his girlfriend Jasmine, they sat down and listened to the song, and they both had a really good cry. So like I knew at that point that we did all right, and we nailed the performance on that one. So that was stressful / once I heard heard their reaction to it, I felt a lot better that we got through that song the way that it should have, and it came across the way it should have.
One last question for you. Do you see anything on this record that perhaps is obvious to you because you guys worked on it, but it will go maybe unnoticed to the average fan when they listen to the record?
It's a tough question. I think, maybe not. I think everything that made the record, everything that made the mixes, especially from a producer standpoint, everything is there for a reason. And anything that didn't add to the mix, or it didn't add to each song individually, then it wouldn't have made the record, even if it was a sound or something. If you can't hear it, or it's not there, what's the point of having it? So it's just, that's part of like the fat trimming process, I believe. And I think everything that is on the record. It's there for a reason. So yeah, no surprises. It's all up front for everybody to see. So
what you see is what you get. Well,
that's it.
Miguel, thank you very much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. Much success with this record. Dear Monsters out October 29th. Best of luck for you and the rest of the guys.
Thank you so much, man. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Take care. All the best.
Have a good one.